Welcome, everybody, to the War and Peace Baseball Podcast. I'm here today with Farbod Markazi. It's just the two of us today. I'm Alex Uwe. So, you switched places with Rudy since last week. Welcome back.
I did.
First
My
podcast
bad.
in the new year for you.
Yeah, I was busy.
Yeah, okay. Let's get started right now. Let's start off by congratulating Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza on their Hall of Fame induction. I mean, they haven't been inducted yet, but they're going to be. They're voted in. Ken Griffey Jr. got over 99%.
437 out of 440.
Yep, there's 3 idiots out there that don't like Ken Griffey Jr., so
I don't understand that.
find them and end them, basically.
I don't understand how either there's 3 people that just decided not to vote for anyone but like 2 people, or there's 3 people that think he's not a Hall of Famer, and that's beyond me. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, this happens every year. Like, you wonder,
I know who's gonna be the first. Who's gonna be the first unanimous guy if he can't be one?
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it last week, and it was like the perfect situation, or if it were to ever happen, this would be the time. You know, it's a very weak Hall of Fame class in general, and then Ken Griffey Jr. is like one of the not only like one of the best statistically best players of like multiple generations, but he is like one of the most memorable players, one of like the best baseball guys you can think of. So
Yeah,
there's not a lot of argument against him. But I guess a few people found a way.
He's one of the better. He's like probably one of the best players that came out of the steroid era. Whose like reputation wasn't messed with, steroids or anything.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you still got all the steroid guys on the ballot that are.
Piazza
I mean, it
made
seems like they're creeping up a little bit, gaining a little bit of ground, but you never know. We'll see how that progresses. Yeah, and Mike Piazza too. Not forgetting about you. One of the better hitting catchers of all time, really. So, good for him. Well deserved, I would say.
very well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll see some new faces next year, hopefully too. That's an ongoing thing we'll talk about here and there, but let's go ahead and talk about current baseball again, Major League Baseball, the good stuff. Let's talk about a couple signings first. The Kansas City Royals did end up re-signing Alex Gordon to a 4-year, $72 million contract. It seems like the Royals are just going to stick with it. Not much has changed there, really.
Yeah, basically, if you're Alex Gordon and you take a look at your options, you could go to like a team like the Cardinals or the Giants that were interested in, who probably offered a lot more than the Royals did. Or you could return to an environment that you're comfortable with and not to mention the team that you just returned to has as much of a chance, if not better, to win again than the other teams that were interested in.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I think it's kind of I don't know if these other teams that you mentioned necessarily would have offered him more, and he just chose Kansas City for comfort or what? Because it seemed kind of fuzzy in the middle of that whole process. Like the Royals gave him a good offer, and then Gordon's like, I'm gonna see what else I can get, and I guess it seems like a situation where he just settled, really. But it's a decent team to settle on.
I mean, just look at the team. I don't think he's complaining right now. I don't think the Royals are complaining at all.
Yeah, you know, the World Series champions. It's an okay team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once a Fight Club member, always a Fight Club member, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the Giants signed Denard Span, 3 years, $31 million. I suppose he's gonna play center field, and they're gonna move Pagan, or maybe they're gonna move Span. I don't know what's gonna happen there.
Depends on his hip a lot, because he had a bunch of hip issues last year.
Well, it seems like he's healthy. Like he had surgery. He's worked out. He looks good to go. I'm just as concerned with Angel Pagan. He's getting older. He's had a lot of injury trouble the last couple of years. So I mean, they have options at least.
If you look at the guys that the Giants were just considering, they were looking for a guy that can play center field, who can probably make Pagan move to left, just for his injury issues, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And
versatility is always good.
yeah, and they were they also they looked at Gordon, they looked at Cespedes, and Cespedes obviously wanted a lot more than what Span just signed for. But um, with Denard Span, you're getting a guy who had injury problems last year, but he also he steals bases, he gets on base, and he plays pretty good defense when he's healthy. So I think they're still doing pretty good in that, and they have money to spend next offseason too.
Yeah. So, the Giants normally know what they're doing with their money. They've made some pretty good signings the last few years, so I'm excited. So let's talk about the Marlins a little bit. They made a couple, spent a little bit of money recently. They signed Wei-Yin Chen. He is one of the bigger pitchers on the market still, now off the market, to a 5-year, $80 million contract. It's an interesting move, I think. Like, Wei-Yin Chen, probably, you would expect him to make that kind of money, but not necessarily to a team like the Marlins, who they think they're in contention, but I have less faith.
Jeffrey Loria does not make sense in whatever he does, but I mean, like, they think they're in contention, just Jeffrey Loria. But I like Wei-Yin Chen. He's kind of, I don't know what it is about him. He's always kind of been like kind of under the radar for me. I don't know how he's seemed for you, but like I never hear anyone talking about him. But he always puts up pretty good games, and I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty good starter. I don't think he's a number 2 behind Jose Fernandez, but
he's gonna have to be, I guess.
He's gonna have to be, but I don't think he essentially is a number 2.
No, I mean he was the Orioles number 1 though, so it's not necessarily any better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The Marlins also extended D. Gordon just recently to a 5-year, $50 million extension through 2020, and I think he's got like a 1-year option too or whatever. But that's good. I like it. You think about it, that's a lot of money for a guy that really has zero power to offer, which is rare. I mean, there's not a lot of guys in the major leagues that have zero power. Like he hit 2 home runs last year, right? And that was like a career high.
One of them was an insider too.
Yeah, but he's great defense, great base running, great average. Obviously, gets a ton of hits. So yeah, that's it's a part of the game that that's important. You don't see it as much. The guys that are strictly high average and no power type guys, like the Ben Revere and D. Gordon types. But I think $50 million over 5 years is a pretty good deal.
The complete opposites in the same lineup, Giancarlo Stanton and D. Gordon.
Well, I don't think they're complete opposites. Stanton doesn't hit for a super low average.
No, I mean, I'm not saying like he hits for a low average, but just like incredible power, no power.
That's true. In terms of power, they got
my bad. I should have cleared that up.
Yeah. Marlins, their lineup's gonna look okay. It's not gonna be great. It's not gonna be terrible though. They got some big bats in there, and obviously D. Gordon sets the table as well as anybody in the game. So,
right.
The Marlins, we don't really think they have a chance just because the Mets and the Nationals are in that division, and we'll see. We'll see what they do. Yeah, they do have an MVP on their team, an MVP potential player on their team, so that is always an upside. The last one we'll talk about is the Rockies signing Gerardo Parra to a 3-year, $27 million contract. The more interesting part about this is basically, does this mean Carlos Gonzalez is as good as gone?
Cargo or Blackman, one of the two is as good as gone. Yeah. I think one of them's gone at this point because they have outfielders and they want pitching. So if they want to, do you think they'd have to eat part of Cargo's contract because it's only $37 million for the next week?
I think that ideally teams would want them to, but I don't think they're going to end up eating any of his contract. I think it's going to be like, if you want him, you want to trade for him, you're going to have to be willing to pay. And there are plenty of teams out there that are willing to pay that kind of money for that kind of player because he's still a premier hitter.
If you're the Orioles, like you said.
Yeah, the Orioles are a team that I always want to do something. The Blue Jays are a team that I always want to do something, even though their lineup's stacked already. Could you imagine if they added Cargo to that team? I mean, their payroll would be pretty insane, but it's worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Go all in. That would be tricky though, because they've depleted a lot of their farm system. I think going after a free agent for the Blue Jays would be a bit easier. We'll talk about them
I,
a little bit more.
I
They're
would
one of our
know
teams of the week,
about
by the way. We'll get
I
to that
would
in a
know
sec.
about depleting a farm system. I'm an Angels fan.
Yeah, you want the Angels to trade for Cargo. I don't know how
No,
that's
I
gonna
want the
go.
Angels to trade, but I don't think they'd be able to trade for Cargo. I think it. I don't know. Blackman, is that more of a more realistic shot?
Well, it's more realistic, but I don't know why you'd want, another Charlie, like a Charlie Blackmon type. You know,
Right
like
now
'cause
we
he's
have
not
three
he's not in
hitters.
the he's going away from that like premier hitters park, which is, for him that's probably driving up some of his average numbers. Like he's got good
That's
speed,
yeah.
plays good defense, but he's not going to play center field for the Angels, obviously. Um, why would you want him to play left field? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Get a left
I'd
fielder that is
personally
a
rather
premier
have
hitter.
him than a platoon. I don't know. I don't like platoons. I don't want a platoon of Daniel Nava and Craig Gentry in my left field
Yeah, nobody
slot.
wants a
Then
platoon. That means you've given up.
yeah, and right now the only option for the Angels to get a left fielder is either sign someone that's under 5 million because that's all they have before the luxury tax, or trade for one with
Mhm.
one of their eight pitchers, with a couple of their eight pitchers.
Let me.
So
Does Shane Victorino still exist? Is he still
he
part of
does,
the?
but I don't know where he is.
Is he still part of the Angels organization?
I don't think so. He's a free agent.
Okay. I could see going after a guy that's had previous success, seeing if they can squeeze anything more out of them. That makes a lot of sense to me too, rather than going after these guys that have always been like middle of the road, like platoon type players. So I don't know. They have a lot of options, but they're running out of time, which
I mean,
is
when they signed Gentry a couple months ago, I was very happy if he was a guy that was going to come off the bench because he's a guy that plays good defense and runs well. But
and then you
since
realized, oh, he's not coming
yeah,
off the
then I
bench, is he?
realized, oh wait, Artie doesn't want to do anything. Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Cargo still has a lot of options. Or I mean, he doesn't have options. The Rockies have a lot of options for what to do with him, but um, nothing's happened yet. I think Para signing with the Rockies indicates that something will happen though before this season starts. Um, yeah. So let's go ahead and dive right into our teams of the week. It's going to be a shorter podcast today. Our teams of the week are the Blue Jays and the Brewers. Let's talk about the Blue Jays a little bit more. I love talking about the Blue Jays. I'm a Yankees
They're,
fan, the AL East rivalry and all that. The Blue
they're a
Jays
very
just seem
exciting team.
like they're
Yeah,
just fun,
they're a very exciting team.
bat flipping and all that kind of good stuff. It's a good time up north there. So let's do a little bit of breaking down, shall we? So they've obviously got one of the best core lineups with Donaldson, Bautista, Encarnacion, and now you got supporting cast like Tulowitzki. It's kind of crazy to say that Troy
Tulo's
Tulowitzki's in a
wow.
supporting cast.
Yeah, I know. I just said wow. Like I would never have thought that Tulo would be a supporting cast.
Like
To,
normally Tulo's like the first name you say
yeah,
in that
Tulo
list,
would
and
be
now
the MVP of the lineup, but
not
not when you
anymore.
have a Josh Donaldson or other guys in the lineup like
Mhm.
they do.
And you got Russell Martin still very good, offensively and defensively, overlooked a lot. I will
Martin's a
mention
very
also that they
likable player.
did trade Ben Revere away this last week for Drew Storen, which I like. They got him from the Nationals. Get another relief pitcher
Just cut
for a player that's a good table setter, but not a player that you need.
You just cut out
I cut out. Well, okay,
after
sorry.
4.
I think, yeah. So I basically just said that they traded Revere for Storen. Good deal. They don't really need Ben Revere, and it gives them options, flexibility for left field. First base is also a spot that is pretty much open. They have Justin Smoke, who I don't think is a permanent guy. I really want them to sign Chris Davis or something like that, just to
Do you realize how insane that team would be?
I do. That's why I really want this team. I've
Chris
been talking about
Davis
it for a
or
long
Justin
time.
Upton?
Yeah, one of the two. Either one. Like, you get Cespedes or Upton or
Oh my
Davis,
goodness.
one of those guys to add to that lineup. It's going to be great.
I'd rather have a Davis just to balance out the left hand. Like they're very right-handed heavy, even though they're amazing right-handed hitters. But I'd rather have a Davis.
Yeah, I see where you're getting at. But when you think about it, it really doesn't matter because when they're premier hitters, they're not going to
That's
struggle against righties. Like, these guys are not right-handed hitters that struggle against righties.
true.
It's a kind of the exception is when they're superstars.
MLB.com has Saunders and Pompey in left field. What are they going to do? What do you think they're going to do with left field?
As of right now, I think, playing Dalton Pompey wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Give him a chance, give him some time to play out there.
I'd be for that move.
They still have Chris Colabello if they need some
Yeah,
better offensive production. He's not going to give you as good of defense. And there's still there's kind of options out there. I want to say I don't know. They're not worried about it though. I think getting rid of that, no power left fielder for a relief pitcher is the right move for them.
essentially solidifying their bullpen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Storin is going to close for them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe so.
because they have Osuna.
Yeah, I don't think they've said anything yet, but
But you got to imagine Storin is going to close. I mean, that's going to be a good bullpen. You have two
Yes,
guys that can close. And then, on top of that, you got Aaron Sanchez, who I think they're going to keep in the bullpen, considering how many starters they have now.
I read something that Sanchez, since the Storin trade, I read something online that says both Sanchez and Ozuna want to try starting.
Really?
That's Sanchez wants to be back in the pen, back in the starting rotation.
I can see that for Ozuna, but
wants to start.
Storin, that's...
No, Sanchez and Ozuna, not Storin.
Oh, Sanchez. I thought you said Storin and Ozuna. Sorry.
My bad.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, but, right now, it doesn't make sense for the Blue Jays.
Sanchez
they
is
have...
very,
Let's
very
break down the
good
starting
defense.
rotation while we're at it. They got Stroman. They've got Estrada. They got Marco Estrada. They've got Jay Happ. Both of these guys that they re-signed this offseason. They've got R.A. Dickey still. And they've got...
Chavez,
They got Jesse Chavez, too. Am I forgetting somebody?
Hutchison.
Yeah, I don't count him. I don't think
That's
he's going to last. But they have him as an option, too. Yeah, so it's hard to say, really. They're going to be a good team. Are they going to win the division? Nothing. It's hard to say. The AL East is always, it seems, up for grabs. But I like their team. With an offense like that, you always have a chance to win any game, no matter what your pitching was like. So,
Out of the two guys, Edwin and Bautista, they're both free agents at the end of the year. Which one, Edwin the 33-year-old, Bautista the 35-year-old? Which one would you rather, like, if you had to choose, which one would you sign?
If you're the Blue Jays, I say you got to stick with Bautista. Like, he is like the face of that organization at this point, and
Since he hit the 54 homers in 2010.
I don't think his age is going to limit his swing because he's just such an aggressive hitter that I think he's not going to be hindered by that. I think he's going to
Edwin's
be
had
able to
his
still...
share of injury problems. Same with Jose. They both had their own share of injury problems throughout the years.
Yeah, and I think he's just got his swing.
They're not
going
to be like
down.
5-year extensions for either of them, but they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, he's got that swing down at this point. Hitting home runs is no problem. I think you got to stick with Bautista if you have a choice.
I agree.
Interesting question. I like that. Let's give the Brewers a little bit of love, though, before we end off this podcast. They are obviously in full rebuild mode at the bottom of that very competitive NL Central division. Just wondering, like, initially, right off the bat, what do you think their timetable's like for when they're even going to be close to being in contention again?
I have to look at their farm system for that. Give me a sec.
I mean, let's go ahead and talk. I mean, they've been doing a lot of deals with, where they're restocking their farm system. They still got a couple pieces that they could move to bolster their team a little bit more. Ryan Braun is one of those guys that you're like, what are they going to do with him?
I find him half untradeable, but half because a lot of people are saying he's going to be tradable, but I find him kind of untradeable.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the franchise player, but you're like, do we want him to be the franchise
He's
player?
kind of like
Probably not.
Tired act at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's a great player still. He's still able to produce, so there's no negative to having him. Just, he's got value now. Are you going to take advantage of that. It's interesting to think about that. In terms of other guys, they've really been doing a good job, unloading. They can still get rid of Luke Roy, their catcher, who is one of the better hitting catchers still, even after struggling with injuries recently. Let's see, who else? Those are the big ones that come to mind. They have Gene Segura, who's not a shortstop that I think is very desirable at this point. I don't know. There's not a lot going for them. They traded Adam Lind, who was one of their big positives last year. They traded Carlos Gomez, obviously. They traded... who else did they trade? I don't even remember. They've traded guys. They traded Gallardo a while ago, too.
That was last year.
Last year. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're trying to... they're doing the right stuff. And I'm looking at their farm system now. It is a very promising farm system.
Yeah,
their top prospect is a shortstop prospect.
And his ETA is next year, so this year.
Yeah. I mean, he was mostly a defensive shortstop, it seemed, and then he kind of learned how to hit, so that's a good sign for them.
Yeah.
There's one guy that I really want to talk about that I think is going to be amazing is Josh Hader, who is not highly ranked on this current prospect ranking. He's like 14 in their organization, but he's going to shoot up a ton. I saw him pitch in the Arizona Fall League, and he has legit stuff. He's got Chris Sale type stuff. And I think that's going to be a name to look out for, probably as soon as next year, or this year now. I'm not used to saying this year yet. The baseball season is going to happen this year. This calendar year is happening right now as we speak. Yeah, so, what do you think about the Brewers overall? Do you think they're doing what they have to do at this point?
I like that, unlike some other teams in baseball, they actually have a direction, like a clear direction in what they're doing. And I like what they're doing so far with their rebuild. Like you said, they've like traded away guys, and they've gotten pretty good returns for them. And for now, I mean, they're not going to be good this year. They're not going to be that good next year. But I think by 2017, 2018, while these guys, while their like prospects end up coming up and like having a year to like fully like experience that, then they're going to start like being closer and closer to contention. Yeah,
I think that's good. I think that's accurate. I'd say they're 3-4 years out maybe. So yeah, the Brewers and the Braves are gonna rule the world in a few years. So
yeah, I just
look
messed
forward
up
to that.
With the years. I mean, 2018, 2019. I'm not used to it being 2016 either.
Yeah. Get used to that. It's gonna be 2016 for a while. Anyway, that's gonna do it for our podcast today. Like I said, it's gonna be a short one. Thank you all for joining us. If you feel like it, you can check out our Twitter. It is at WPB_podcast. Tweet us any feedback you have, anything that you want to let us know about. Everything's there. You can also check out our website, which is in the description below. Check that out there. We got some articles up. We got all the links to all the podcasts, and everything you need is on that website. So thanks again. Again, Happy New Year. I guess we'll keep saying that until it's not January anymore, I guess.
Until we're used to it being 2016.
Yeah, happy 2016 to all of you. All right, he's back. Let's see it. As always,
first one of 2016. Peace.